We must improve our health. We must improve our education system. We must improve the quality of the environment so that we stop our young men and women dying in the Mediterranean Sea, dying off the coast of Dhaka, going into modern day slavery in Saudi Arabia, in that part of the world. It can be done. We have seen it done during our lifetime. We have seen South Korea do it. We have seen China do it. We are seeing India do it. We can see Indonesia doing it. We have seen Vietnam after the war doing it. And within the continent of Africa, there are other examples. We have seen Rwanda rise like a phoenix during our lifetime. We have seen Botswana do it. We have seen Cabo Verde do it. We have seen Mauritius doing it. It can be done. And if we agree that it can be done, what we must now do is to take a solemn vow. And that solemn vow must come from these words spoken by Julius Kambarage Nyerere on the 6th day of March 1990.
Je ne suis pas politicien. Je n'ai pas de langue de bois.
I am not a politician and I don't beat around the bush.
Je préfère vous dire la vérité.
I am a soldier and I prefer to tell you the truth.
Chacun est libre de prendre ou de laisser.
Everyone is free to take it or leave it.
Tout le monde roule dans sa
Everyone drives their car, everyone lives well. We eat in the morning, we eat in the afternoon and evening, and we do whatever we want to do. We are free to speak, to say what we want. This is democracy. This is the law. That's all. That's all we know in Ouagadougou. But go and see them, the children who are skin and bones. Go see those who are starving.
Aim and put the things that held us together, and we can no longer reason as one. And he said, we may have sent the white man away, but what about our brothers whose minds they have infected and infested?
Hello brothers and sisters, I really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you are watching me from. Now, this is a message to the diaspora, Jamaicans and the Caribbean. Now, this is a message from the motherland, a message from Ibrahim Traoré and the Pan-Africanists who want to unite Africa, the diaspora, and all black people around the world so that we can elevate Africa, we can elevate black people, and make sure that we stop the social injustices that the Western countries have been committing against humanity and against our countries. So let's watch this video, then have a really quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
Go see those women who can no longer breastfeed because they have nothing left in their breasts. Go see them. Let's not pretend. If our journalists don't have the courage to go out in the field and bring back these images, it's because we want to whitewash Burkina's image. I'm telling you, it's false. It exists. When I tell you about people who eat grass, those who want to contest, I will take them to see it continues. It hasn't even stopped, because we have managed to supply some villages, but others not yet. We are still on the way. No civilian can even support us with trucks, so we can show solidarity with these populations. What kind of integrity is this? What is integrity, Burkina Faso? What is it? This lack of support has deeply unsettled and revolted us. Until we truly address the core issues plaguing this country, we will remain in a state of unrest and discontent. For the moment, we've managed to secure some trucks in the army and have been using our own means to transport supplies. However, this hasn't really added much to the support for the starving populations. And even in doing this, there's been a distinct lack of empathy. The citizens were aware of the situation, but they've remained on the sidelines. This is to say that solidarity has disappeared in Burkina. Have pity for the people, have pity for the youth, have pity for the children. What have these villagers done so that when the sun sets, they find themselves in caves and under trees? They leave village after village, and in the morning they come back to see if everything is okay before returning. They sleep in the bush. They cannot sleep in their homes. We don't tell you these truths. This is the reality of Burkina. We only see our cities. We are responsible for what happens to us, and we will be fully responsible for what will follow, whether it is good or bad. It will depend on our behavior in the future.
If it is colonization that has been spoken to, if it is neo-colonization that has been spoken to, if it is in describing the continent of Africa as having been divided so very arbitrarily in Berlin in 1884 and 1885, that has been spoken to. And we have been told so very correctly how that continues to bedevil the continent of Africa and to undermine our attempts at unity. Those of you who are students of history will remember that in 1963 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and in 1964 in Cairo, Egypt, the debate was, should we redraw the boundaries? It was agreed by the founding fathers then that that would be an exercise in fueling conflict, and that if we were moving towards unity, then redrawing boundaries was unnecessary. The OAU was, of course, founded in 1963, a weak organization which, as it were, introduced the concept of inviolability of boundaries and placed emphasis on sovereignty. We have been told that that could very well be the reason why Africa's growth has been stunted. There are those, and there's who has told us so very effectively that upon consultation with the gods, he has been told very useful things, and the gods are right in the revelation that they have made. The gods are right in saying that we have suffered in many ways and continue to do so, and that therefore the post-independence African country or countries are bedeviled by many things. That could be a reason. It has also been said that part of the reason why we have not realized our potential is because we make the wrong choices. And that could very well be true. And my brother who spoke about choices so very well told us that it all rests on the choices that you make. And you who are Christians will remember that at critical moments, even in the Christian tradition, it has always been a question of choices. If you read the book of 1 Kings at chapter 18, when there is conflict in that little place called Israel, Elijah summons them and says, choose you now. If Baal is God, bring the 450 disciples of Baal and the 400 of Asherah who dined with Jezebel. And if God is God, let him be worshipped. If Baal is Baal, let him be worshipped. Perhaps that is the reason why we are where we are. We never make the right choices. We choose Baal when we should be choosing God. There are those who have said possibly, and you see this choice if you read the book of Joshua chapter 24, when he calls the Israelites and tells them, choose you now. Do you want to worship the gods whom your ancestors worshipped before they crossed the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell? As for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. Perhaps we are not serving the gods, and that the gods are angry. And in the anger, they continue to visit pain upon us. So there is a sense in which all and many things have been talked about. But Africa sometimes judges ourselves very harshly and with a jaundiced sense of history. The post-colonial African state, the oldest post-colonial African state is Ghana, 66 years only. Nigeria, 63 years only. And we often forget these very important and immortal words of John Henry Clark when he said that all African countries, upon regaining independence, started to conduct their affairs on the basis of systems of governments that were borrowed from Europe, and that none of them will ever succeed on the basis of borrowed systems. And as if he were a Jewish prophet, he is being proven right on a daily basis. Because whenever we in the African countries think that we have identified the problem and that we have identified the antidote, when we apply the antidote, new wounds appear. That has been the state of Africa, and that continues to be our state. And therefore, when we judge Africa, we must ask ourselves, from whose lens are we judging Africa? When in 1965, the Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah wrote the book Neo-Colonialism, the Last Stage of Imperialism, and the Most Dangerous, he was right, and he was overthrown for it. Because the colonizer left but never left. And if you have any doubt, see what is happening in Niger, in Guinea, in Burkina Faso, in Mali. They are alive and well. And Africa remains the only continent in the world that is still referred to as Francophone, Anglophone, Lusophone, and now we are beginning to even call it Russophone and Sinophone and Indophone. There is a sense in which we must never forget this, so that when we are judging Africa, we ought to judge her on the basis and upon the realization that the headwinds that stand on our path are numerous, and that there is no shortage of fifth columnists within our ranks. The SMO spoke, and if the SMO were to speak a little longer, he would have reminded you of what Chinua Achebe said in Things Fall Apart, that they care, and there is no shortage of them. So Africa can and will arise. And if you look at the continent of Africa, she has always been conscious of the need to do right things. And if you look at the continent since 1963, and I can remember this so very vividly, I can remember Kwame Nkrumah in 1957 on the 6th of March saying, the freedom of Ghana means nothing if the rest of Africa is not free. He says the same thing in 1958. He repeats the same thing in 1960 in Casablanca, Morocco. He repeats it again on 25th of May, 1963 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where he tells the 32 heads of states gathered there, we must live here with one army. We must live here with one currency. We must live here with one foreign policy coordinated. And I even suggest that we can have a capital.
Because we have affected the interests of many people. There is social inequality. There is corruption. There is poor management of public health. If we try to straighten all this, inevitably, we will affect the individual interests of some people. And these people are often rich. They have money, they use it to manipulate often poorer people, to put them at risk. This is internal. And these same people do not hesitate to coalesce with the imperialist forces who spend their time trying to impoverish us. The other side are these external forces. There are many countries today that we have on our backs. We have no choice. We have to do it. If we want our country to be independent, if we want our sovereignty, if we want Burkina Faso to eat at their expense, if we want our children to go to school without paying a penny, if we want tomorrow the malaria, which is one of the most common diseases in Burkina Faso, so that we can heal our population, in some words, at zero cost. Some dreams that we have, but we will have to make a lot of concessions. We will have to prevent certain powers from pillaging us, and that creates a lot of enemies. So we are prepared for these situations. We live them as normal, in fact. It does not frighten us, it does not scare us. It still gives us the courage to move forward. Because through these events, we know that the directive line that we have chosen is the best line for our country, for our people. So we live it like that. And the plotters, actually, we have spent 2 years raising awareness, talking, putting people on guard. But it was necessary for the Burkinabe to see for themselves how far certain Burkinabe can go against the country. If we had started to serve in a certain way, it is not obvious that you will understand us. Captain Thomas Sankara was misunderstood at some point, maybe because they started strong. But we had to let the people see, understand what these plotters are, communicate with the people.
The audience of Bobo Duraso would like to know what the fate reserved for these plotters is.
As we said, from this moment on, I will not go into details. Everyone will take responsibility. If someone takes such a step, he assumes all the consequences. We will not advise anyone or put people on guard.
Let's go back to the case of Barcelogo. An audience member would like to know what really happened.
But I think Barcelogo was personally targeted because Barcelogo and I have a history. Barcelogo and the situation of the country have a history. In July 2022, you may be able to contact Barcelogo. I challenged a lot of orders to intervene so that Barcelogo does not fall. I sacrificed a lot of things to Barcelogo. This is the place for me to thank a lot of people who supported us in our maneuver. I think they targeted Barcelogo because it was going to affect me. That was the objective. I do not want to go into certain details. Maybe one day we will have the opportunity to talk about it.
Your reaction to the speech on the political orientation of the fire of Captain Thomas Sankara is a concern of Ile Budo of Ouagadougou.
It is true. We have chosen the date of October 2nd for the launch of the Patriotic Day of Patriotic Engagement. It is precisely to corroborate with the DOP. Because this speech was a reference. I think that some countries far from our sub-region use this reference to develop. They make us understand because they accused a lot of things of this speech. We are inspired by this news and we adapt it to the context. There are some things in its time, in 1983, that cannot be done today, but we adapt it step by step. Thomas Sankara was too much ahead of his time. I think that all this means that he was not understood, because he saw things that others did not have the opportunity to see. His vision was much more ahead. But today we realize that we should have, every time we ask ourselves these questions, should we not have? Should we not have? It has already happened. But I think that it is a new speech. It is the same vision for a total sovereignty of our country. I think that we should join this launch.
I would like to know what is the morale of the troops with this validity of destabilization.
I would say that the morale of the troops is at a fixed level. Because to engage, to defend the country, you know that when you're a soldier, there is another state of mind. It is natural in the army. To get up, take your backpack, your weapon, and go to the front is not given to everyone. But generally in the head of the soldier, when he leaves, it is with pride. He knows what can happen, but it is with pride that he leaves. And today, with what we have put in place, we are trying to make an effort through the support of the people. Many soldiers are really proud to be soldiers. That is why they give their body and soul. And with all the support that the people also make in their place, I think that it can only boost the morale. It is true that this situation of destabilization does not affect them, but it gives them even more courage to fight. They understand better why they have to fight for their country. They know that it is not for nothing that we are trying to destabilize ourselves. Despite the fact that we were able to change the situation in terms of equipment, training, if people still try to destabilize it, gives more arguments to the military to boost their morale and to fight.
Thank you. Hervé Kabor joined us for the questions of the listeners. Hervé, it is your turn.
Yes, Chantal Nikiman. My question is to Mr. Alassane Ouedraogo, who is calling us from Kaya in the North Center. He asks, after the attack of Barsalbo, the public opinion wonders if sanctions have already been applied to the meeting of the responsible and accomplices, or are we in terms of justice and reparation for the victims of this tragedy? That is the question of Mr. Ouedraogo Alassane from Kaya.
Thank you, Hervé. Mr. President, you have the floor to answer Mr. Ouedraogo.
D'accord, merci.
Okay, thank you. It must be said that after every attack since we have been there, after each attack, we try to analyze the situation to understand what worked and what did not work.
Tant qu'on n'arrive pas à le faire,
As long as we can't do it, we can't improve the situation. So naturally, after the attack of Barsalbo, on a military level, we must analyze what happened, what worked, and what did not work. We are almost at the end of this investigation. I think the military authorities have been to Barsalbo several times to investigate, to continue to investigate through Kaya. The responsibilities will be set in a few days. I am waiting for the result of the report, and the sanctions will fall. All the attacks, that's what we do. There have been attacks where we have often brought some people to their knees who have failed in their duties. Because we don't have a choice as long as we are committed, and we feel that the failure comes from the device, we have to get rid of it. So we are waiting for the final report to act. Regarding the victims, it is natural. We have adopted laws so that the children of those who would have lost their lives in this war, we recover them as a treasure of the nation, and those who have fallen, we take them as martyrs. The government is permanently on the side of the population to be able to take charge on the psychological side, on the humanitarian side, health and everything, of all the members of the families who have been affected by this tragedy.
Hervé Kabor has questions from the listeners. He joins us once again. Yes, I speak directly. Obviously, the listeners have still sent questions. This is Mr. Thomas Kafando from Zinhari. In relation to the local consumer, he asks, what are the strategies for an endogenous development based on made in Burkina products? And then Mr. Karim Zongo from FADA asks, you have governmental teams who are currently meeting the usual leaders. What are your expectations? Thank you, Hervé, for these two questions. Mr. President.
D'accord, merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you very much. I see that the concept of local consumer has been launched. It is very important to us. If you notice, first of all, in terms of investment, the first steps we took were an analysis of a certain number of factors. First of all, we have to promote what our artisans are putting into practice. That is, Faso Damfani, Coco Donda. This led us to reflect on the issue of towels, teachers' towels, which were imported expensively. We instructed the minister to change the towels. Today, it is done in Faso Damfani. The ladies who do it, there are many ladies who joined the workshop, and it is a great achievement for the employees. Also, the instruction was given to the Ministry of Justice to change their towels to be able to adapt to our Faso Damfani and many other social classes, even in the army. I think if you have followed the minister's outfit, it is in Burkina Faso Damfani. There are many things that we try to promote locally and in many other areas, especially in transformed products. Currently, we are in the dynamic of promoting everything that can transform our raw materials. That is, food products, so that they are consumed by Burkina Faso, which led us to take a decree to institute the fact that if someone wants to import a product, no matter the product, as long as there are Burkina Faso that manufacture it, he must first take it to Burkina Faso, and when it is not enough, he can take it abroad. It is a strong act that we have taken to be able to encourage what is produced locally to be consumed by Burkina Faso.
Donc sur ce volet, je pense que nous sommes.
I think we are in a good dynamic. We cannot reveal the entire strategy because, as I said, those who are used to importing do not necessarily like to apply what we want.
D'appliquer ce que nous voulons.
But if we want to be Burkina Faso, we have to take measures. It will not please others, but it will please a lot of people. I think that is the most important thing.
Mr. Go, I would like to know your expectations concerning your government teams that are on the ground.
Oui, donc ce sont des.
Yes, these are outings that were planned a little while ago. It is like the first outings that coincided with the events of Barcelona.
Les événements de Barcelone, je pense.
We had planned several outings. When the event arrived, we told people to go and make the program.
On a quand même dit aux gens.
During this period, we stopped the Council of Ministers for a week.
On arrête le Conseil des ministres pendant une semaine.
We want the ministers to go to the populations to acquire realities,
S'enquérir des réalités.
to see the realities of the people, and to come back.
Et revenir parce que un ministre c'est au niveau.
A minister is at the level of the decision. If you are just in Ouagadougou and you cannot understand the deep aspirations of the people, it is complicated.
Donc c'est un programme, ça ne sera pas la première
So
fois.
this program will not be the first time. It will not be the last time.
Pour s'enquérir des vraies réalités, comprendre les.
They went to the populations in all regions to acquire realities, to understand the difficulties.
Les besoins réels de nos populations. C'est le même état d'esprit.
And I think that each minister will rearrange his program according to the real needs of our populations. It is the same state of mind that led us to go to the leaders because we want to put them back in their role. Their role is to maintain social cohesion, unity, peace. They have to assert themselves. They have to help us educate the youth. These are the messages that are brought to their place. Whatever we say, they are key actors of our society, and we want to put them back in.
Hello, brothers and sisters. I hope you're all doing fine from wherever you're watching me from. Now, it is so good to see African leaders talking about the diaspora and talking about black people who are not in Africa. It is so good to see them being concerned about our brothers and sisters who are outside this continent of Africa. Now, we've had leaders since independence in Africa, and it must be remembered in most African countries, leaders have been trying so much as they can that to block the diaspora from coming back home, because they know the diaspora are very brilliant people and they have very brilliant minds, and when they come to Africa and to these various African countries, they are coming to change the narrative, they are coming to change the leadership style and all this other stuff. Now, we've had leaders in Africa who did not want to associate actually with Black Americans, to associate with the Caribbean and all this other stuff. But we really thank God in a way that we now have leadership in Africa. And if you go around most African countries, I can name but a few. We have Burkina Faso, we have Namibia, we have Gambia, we have Uganda. We've had countries in Africa now talking about coming back of Black Americans, welcoming them back to Africa and making sure that they get a place in Africa where they can develop themselves, where they can actually open businesses, where they can live and thrive well, as much as they are considered to be children of Africa. Now, this is the motherland, and this is the cradle of humankind and human beings. This is where life began. It is in Africa indeed that we've had archaeologists finding out after doing extensive research that actually life started in Africa. The whole world was one. After a long drift that took place over the centuries, over the years, it is when human beings started separating. And it must be remembered, Africans were taken forcibly from Africa. Not willing, they were taken to go and fight, to go and work in the farms of the white settlers, the white people. Now, these were the colonial masters. They came to Africa, dismantled everything. They have been meddling with the affairs of this continent. They have done worse than good to the people of Africa. Now, it has come a time that the African leaders, the African generation, the black generation is now realizing that we are on our own. And the fight that we are fighting today, we are fighting a fight to have freedom. We are going to this war actually to have a democracy that is working, not the democracy that they have brought to Africa, not the religion that they brought to Africa. And if you're so much keen that the democracy we have in Africa is just a word, and they can't define democracy because you have an African continent where the leaders, the puppet leaders who have been put in power by the Western countries are very corrupt. They are very silent when minerals in Africa are being exploited by these Western companies. Now, it is only in Africa where leaders want to be worshipped. And it is in Africa that they claim so much about democracy. But when you look at the state, the nature of the state in which people exist, and if you just come to the ground and look how things are in Africa, you're going to realize that the democracy that they have been talking about does not really exist. And this is why sometimes I do support people like Ibrahim Traoré. We need true leadership. We don't need Emmanuel Macron's puppet in Africa. We do not need the US puppets in Africa. I've always asked questions. Why are they so much concerned about the elections in Africa? Why do they send their convoys to come in Africa and oversee elections? Why do they do that to the Caribbean? It is because they are very much obsessed with black people and they want really to control everything that black people do. Now, if we have good leaders in Africa, they should not be crying about Donald Trump maybe cutting aid to Africa and all that stuff. Personally, I was so happy when Donald Trump came to power and he started cutting the aid that was coming to Africa. That really meant a lot. It meant we should get ourselves liberated. If we still depend on the US aid, if we still are here talking about someone else to come and help us cope with HIV in Africa, someone else to come and fight malaria in Africa, someone else to get to pump funds, and most of that funds were being used in corruption, because a lot of millions were being pumped into these African countries, but a lot of millions were being stolen. It was a lucrative money-making deal in Africa. And that's why so many leaders in Africa are so bitter with Donald Trump. I love it that way. We should make Africa great. And the only way is first by cutting every deal that we had with the US. Now, and making sure that the Western countries stay in their countries and Africa remains to be Africa. That the mineral resources that are in Africa only benefits the people in Africa. The mineral resources that are in the Caribbean benefits the Caribbeans, and the vice versa. Because if we really talk about independence, if we really talk about sovereignty, how are we going to achieve sovereignty if we still want to depend on the US? The US has its own population. Africa has its own population. In fact, we have countries that overtax people in Africa. And where the taxes go to has always remained a fallacy. Like, it is so absurd to see the state of Africa and the Caribbean that we still want to depend on the West. And that's why I do clap on Ibrahim Traoré and Julius Malema and all these leaders who are very visionary, who have seen where Africa should be. And they're trying as much as they can to elevate and educate the people in Africa, to educate all the black folks, telling African Americans that it is safe to be in Africa, of course. Leave alone whatever you've been told about Africa by the Western media. It is really possible to be in Africa and to elevate yourself, to elevate your businesses and whatever you do in Africa. We really need this continent on another level. And the only way we can do this is by uniting all black people around the world. There is one information and there is one message that should be passed. The message of unity. And the only way we can do this, and I love it when In a video, Louis Farrakhan once said that the only problem we have as black people is the leaders that we've elected in various positions across Africa and in the diaspora and in the Caribbean. Now, when he says about this, the leaders have the mandate to unite the people, and the people have the mandate to listen to good leadership, and the people have also the mandate to actually support good leadership. And when we elect leaders and they turn their backs to us and they go to the Western countries, they kneel before Emmanuel Macron, they kneel before Donald Trump or Joe Biden or whoever was there by then, and they want to bring the Western policies to countries in Africa. It is so unacceptable. It must be remembered most leaders in the Caribbean and in the diaspora have sold their conscience to the white system, in that we have a lot of black Americans crying out on police brutality, social injustices that are being committed against them. But we have black leaders, right? When we talk about reparations have never been paid. We've had black presidents. We have had black vice president. We've had all the people in the leadership positions. What next? What next do we have to say? So I think a lot of black leaders have also played a role in the black downfall and in the downfall of black people in the diaspora and in Africa. The only way we can now elevate ourselves, the only way we are going to unite ourselves, the only way we are going to make sure that Africa works and the Caribbean works is first by the people themselves uniting. Leave alone the leaders. We've seen leaders have failed us. The few leaders who will unite together with the people, the few leaders who will have the same message as the people, are those ones that we gonna listen, and the ones that we are going to respect. It is time for black people to rise, and the time is now. If it's not now, it must be this moment. Thank you so much for having taken the time to watch this video. I appreciate so much. If it's your first time on this channel, please consider subscribing, sharing this message, like the video, comment. You can also be a special member to this channel by subscribing to the special packs that are offered on this channel. Thank you so much. See you in my next video.